So today we had a small discussion about tournament formats on Twitter, but first things first, can we all just appreciate how awesome this t-shirt is? This t-shirt is amazing. So, as I said, we had a talk today about tournament formats and I figured why not make a video about it. So let's start from scratch. Let's start from how tournament formats initially were in CS. So initially we had round robin, and round robin is basically teams in a group, they all play each other once, and top 3 or whatever, 4 teams go through, bottom 3 teams drop out. Biggest problem about this type of a format: ties. You have multiple teams with the same score. How do you determine who goes through, who drops, who gets eliminated? Basically, you have tiebreakers. You look at head-to-head, round difference, things like that, and it was just a huge mess. As you can see in the format that's used at Pro League finals, we still have tiebreakers, and there's never a good way to break a tie. Like, there's less bad ways to put it so, but there's never a good way, because in the end, even if you have tiebreakers being played, like, you still play on the one map, all teams play on the same map. For example, at the Pro League finals, it's just overtime. So, MR3, 10K, that's not optimal. It's probably the best way to go about it, but it's not optimal. And that's the main reason why this format was changed by the GSL format. GSL, the name comes from the Global StarCraft 2 League. Basically, it was the format used in that league. And this screenshot is actually from an article written by Lurpis back in 2012. He wrote a great article about why GSL is the superior format to round robin, why CS should switch to GSL, and so forth. I'm going to link it in the description so you guys can check it out. But basically what it is, it's a double elimination bracket within a group of 4 teams. So as you can see, Seed 1 plays Seed 4, 2 and 3 play, then you have a winner's match, determines who goes through in first place, loser match to see who gets eliminated as 4th, and then the decider match between the loser of the winner bracket and the winner of the loser bracket. They play the decider game, and in the end, this is how things are determined. And this system is superior because it doesn't have tiebreakers. Obviously, everything is determined after the group ends, and one of the problems is that sometimes because of seeding, for example at the majors last year, Cologne 2016 major, we had that group of death with G2, SK FaZe and Fnatic, right? And in a different format, for example Swiss, you could potentially see all those teams go through into the playoffs. So let's talk about the Swiss system. Swiss system usually not used when you have less than 16 teams, because then it's not a real Swiss system, it's like a quasi-Swiss. But the thought process behind this system is you play only the team that has the same score as you, and you cannot play the same team twice. So as you can see, first round is determined based on seeding, and then after that in round 2 all these teams play against each other, these teams play against each other. Then in round 3, you get 4 to you are getting the hang of it basically. And in the end, you have teams that are 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. 3 wins, you're through, obviously. 3 losses, and you're out of the tournament. The good thing about this system is that obviously you get multiple chances. You can potentially play up to 5 games before you either get through or get eliminated. You're not, most likely, unless like multiple upsets happen and you end up being very unlucky, you're not going to constantly play against teams that are much stronger than you. You are at some point going to meet either a weaker team than you or a team that you're evenly matched up against. Right, so you're not going to be in a situation where you're in a group of death, right? And you have like the best teams, 2 out of the 3 best teams in the world are in your group for some reason. So that's the system that's being used recently at multiple big events. E-League Major, for example, used Swiss as well. And the big problem I have across all of these formats, doesn't really matter which format it is that we still have best of ones, right? Swiss system, best of one all the way. In GSL, actually, the compromise that the tournament organizers made is that the decider game was best of 3 and the loser game was best of 3 at some tournaments, so that you cannot drop out of a tournament without playing a best of 3 at least. But still, at most of them, the winner game was best of 1. So you could win 2 best of 1s and you would be through to the playoffs. You would earn legend status at the major, right? Which is how Gambit at Cologne got their legend status for E-League. So that's a big problem for me, and this is why nowadays all the teams got so much better that, you know, most of the tier 1 teams, you look like Astralis, FaZe, Virtus Pro, North, SK, all these teams can play 6 maps. Then you go to teams like Navi, who can, you know, probably play 5 maps. It depends. You know, these other teams also have strong map pools. And then you look at up-and-coming teams who have recently been very strong, like Mousesports, for example, in the EU region, or Liquid at the NA region, but their problem is like the map pool. They can probably only play around 4 maps, you know, competitively against these like tier 1 and other tier 2 teams. So when you get into a Swiss system where it's a best of 1, or GSL where it's a best of 1, they get to ban 3 maps, or like 2 if you're talking about the major, and there's the randomizer as well. But you know, that's where they can basically just eliminate all of their weak maps, and you know, they are bound to end up on a map on which they're at least comfortable. Maybe not their strongest map or their second strongest map, but at least a map that they play, because these teams have maps that they don't ever play. Like Liquid doesn't really play Cash or Overpass, so you know, you can only veto one of the 2 in a best of 3. And obviously when you play a team that has a 6 you know, map pool, unless you're against like VP who doesn't play Cash, so you veto Overpass, they veto Cash, and then you kind of locked out there. But that's not always going to happen, and then you're going to be forced to play your weak map, and you're most likely going to lose it. And that's, you know, you're 1-0 down in a best of 3. You need to win other 2 maps, which, okay, you're comfortable on them, but they're probably very strong for the other team, who's already better than you, probably on paper at least, right? More experienced, or better team play wise, or better individuals. So that's where it really gets difficult for these teams to make a legitimate upset. And I think that's how it should be, right? I think the tier 1 teams should be rewarded for the work that they put in to have a 6 map pool. I mean, Astralis, hell, they can even play 7 maps. They show that they could play Cobblestone at least against FaZe. So, you know, getting teams to bring down their map pool from 7 to 4, or from 6 to 3, right? That's much more beneficial to the underdog than it is for the favorite. And I think, sure, before, when you didn't have that many teams who could play a lot of maps, then it makes sense, because, you know, no one wants to see teams play, you know, you have a grand final which ends up on a map, 3rd map decider, none of the teams really play it, and you just end up with sloppy Counter-Strike or something like that. It's not as exciting as it should be. But nowadays I feel like everyone got so much better that we should try and move towards a best of 3 tournament format, whatever it is. So of course I understand the problems for tournament organizer, logistics, right? That if you move from best of 1s to best of 3s, it's a lot more days, a lot more costs for everyone, and it's questionable which compromise can be made. We see ESL recently has been willing to run a B stream as well, which is a good compromise. You know, that way you can add a couple of best of 3s. The viewers still get to watch all the games. I mean, not literally, you would have to maybe watch 2 at the same time, but they, you know, will have a game streamed in any case. You know, they can choose between the 2 what they want to watch more. So now if you ask me what, in my opinion, the optimal format is, if we could, like, for a minute forget about all the restrictions from organizers and so on, it would be basically the format that was used at the Kiev major in Dota 2 most recently. So what they did basically is, this is going to be a little blocked, but you can see it was a Swiss system in the group stage, and best of 3s were being played. So Swiss system, you 3 wins you're through, 3 losses you're out, but you play best of 3s against everyone. And this was only to determine the seeds. So this was only, you know, Team Secret, Swiss group, their seed number 1, VP seed number 2, and that's what they get coming into the main event. And in the main event, basically, it was a single elimination bracket, which was best of 3 all the way to the grand finals, which were best of 5. and I think like this is a great way to get a lot of games. You know, the group stages still means something. Another alternative that I still think would be great. Now that would probably be like too much to have best of 3 Swiss and then move into a double elimination bracket. Something that was run at the International 2016 is group stage was still basically just for seeds. You had 2 round robin groups, and then you move into the main event and you have the teams that were like top 4 in their groups. They start in the upper bracket best of 3, and the team that were bottom 4 in their groups, they start in the lower bracket, and the first game is best of 1. And I'm fine with having a best of 1 here because you get punished for being in the bottom 4 from the groups, right? And it brings excitement. It's that like sudden death. You only get that one chance to go through, but after that you go back to the best of 3s, and the grand final again is a best of 5. So I feel like if you're gonna run a double elimination in the main event, in the playoffs, then the groups probably need to be best of 1 Swiss. But if you're going to run single elimination in the playoffs, then the groups that determine the seeds can be best of 3 Swiss. So one of the two probably is the best that you can choose from if you can forget about all the limitations that you have. You also need to remember Valve events, they don't need any sponsorships, right? So there are no ad breaks because it's all run by Valve, and Valve is promoting themselves by organizing the event itself and promoting the game. So that's obviously a huge bonus that they have from those events and that the viewers get. And the one last thing I would like to touch on is what prompted this discussion in the first place. It was this tweet from the Flying DJ from ESL. He's basically vice president of pro gaming. He's the guy in charge of Pro League and ESL 1. Obviously there's a lot of people involved, but one of the guys in charge, and he said, we asked all 16 teams coming to ESL 1 Cologne to vote for either GSL or Swiss in group stage. And I for one don't think this is a good idea. I don't think the players should dictate either the format or the rules of a tournament. I think they 100% should be asked for their input because they are the main participants of the whole show, right? We are all there to just watch and enjoy the games and watch them play. But the problem is, for Pro League, the players were the ones determining the format. Before the Brazil season, they were the ones who said that we want 6 teams instead of 4 at the playoffs from each region. We want to have round robin. And you had that in Brazil, and then after that for Dallas they again changed it from, in Brazil all the Group A games were played in one day, Group B games were played the other day, and then in Dallas they made it so that half of the games were played day 1 and you play the other half of your games day 2, because teams after Brazil, they felt like if we have a bad day, we play all of our games in the same day and we just drop out of the tournament in one day. That sucks. The problem is, and this is something that Lurpis tweeted out as well, is that, which makes sense, players will always go for a format that, kind of alleviates the most pressure from them, that they have multiple chances to go through, right? And you also need to remember, obviously, the players are looking after their own well-being. I mean, they're going to vote for a format that works best for them, not best for the viewers, not best for the tournament organizer, not best perhaps for the people the viewers live at the event, production, things like that. There's a lot of moving pieces there. So I think that's not the way you should go about it. I think tournament organizer, in the end, they're the ones making the event. Looking at all of the factors, they should be the ones ultimately deciding, okay, for this tournament, we have this many teams, this many days in the arena, this many people coming in. We think this is the best format. And then you present that basically to the players, and, they go along with it, because nowadays we have these GSL, Swiss, players are fine with whichever pretty much. So, unless you come up with something new that's very, very strange and then the players don't want to play it, I mean, I don't really see something like that happening. So I think that's another thing that shouldn't be done, right? You should just, by yourself, we think this is the best way to go about it. Don't ask the players to decide for you. Also, lower tier teams, right, the weaker teams of the 16 are probably going to vote for best of ones, obviously, because they have a better chance to upset their opponents in a best of one than in a best of three, and so on. So that was basically the last thing that I wanted to touch on, what initiated the whole discussion and back and forth on Twitter. So that was about it. Let me know what you guys think, either in the comments or on Twitter. I'm going to link that article from Lurpis on HLTV. Check it out. And yeah, I'll be at the EU Minor next week in Bucharest with PGL. So tune into that. And yeah, have a nice day.